My might have lost people because they thought it wasn't coming on. So they should get an alert. So we're just gonna start the show, okay? The sound is gonna be bad because is this thing playing?
The music just stopped.
It stopped?
Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. We are live in Nashville, Tennessee. This morning, we're going to talk about who else but Donald Trump in those audio tapes and how damaging they may be. Also, we're going to talk about slave descendants of current lawmakers and former lawmakers and current presidents and former presidents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the U.S. Congress, Democrats at least in the U.S. Congress, have launched an investigation into Justice Clarence Thomas and all the reports of his unethical or alleged unethical behavior. We will discuss that this morning as well. And Carisha Hood and her son are free today, but half the internet agrees with the decision. And then you got the other half of social media saying, wait a minute. We'll discuss this morning. The boys are back in town. We got Barrington Salmon and, of course, the one and only Austin Cooper. Good morning, guys.
Good morning,
gentlemen. Good morning. How are you? Good to see you.
Good morning.
Good to see you. I wish y'all was sitting next to me here in Tennessee.
Well,
absolutely.
We were waiting for
next time.
We were waiting for someone to buy us a ticket.
What?
Yeah.
Why? Let's hop on a plane. You're Barrington.
We are working stiffs, bruh.
Barrington, you know, I found out something about you. That even you. No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So over the weekend, my wife and I joined some family members and others in South Carolina in Myrtle Beach. And folks were saying, Barrington is hot. I was like, what? You mean the Barrington that comes on Let It Be Known? Like, yeah. And then some, and then even guys, I had a couple guys say he's the truth. I was like, okay.
He's the man. He's the
Barrington
man.
got a fan club.
Does that merit a ticket?
A ticket to where?
Nashville.
Oh, shoot. No, it doesn't. You know what? It merits you the fact that you have more of a fan club than Austin and I. So.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true.
I can't even leave town without somebody talking about Barrington.
I know that I can't hold a candle to you or Austin. So.
Folks say Austin is like their uncle. They feel like Austin is like the uncle.
Austin doesn't want to hear that.
I know he wants to hear the fan club like you.
Yeah,
exactly.
I want a fan club. I want a fan club.
Right. Who cares about the uncle stuff? We got enough nieces and nephews.
I'm sure he's got a big family with nieces and nephews. He don't need nobody to be thinking about that. That's like putting him in the friend zone.
Look,
exactly. On my mom's side, there were 10 kids. On my dad's side, there were 10 kids.
So you don't need you're good with nieces and nephews.
I'm comfortable with the whole family gathering. I got more than enough.
Stacey, anytime, tell them that I'm honored.
You're honored. Listen, Power 96 says we're working on CP time.
Hey, this is just the unintended consequences of life.
There you go.
Stuff happens.
There you go. So y'all listen to those audio tapes?
Yeah, I've heard.
This guy.
I hate his voice, but I listen to it.
Look, Austin, how much more is he? He's just giving prosecutors more evidence, isn't he?
He just digging his own grave. I mean, I've never known anybody who consistently, dig their own grave. And every time he opens his mouth, um, he exposes himself to further potential indictments or additional evidence for the current indictments which he is dealing with. And keep in
Yeah,
mind, we still have Georgia to deal with, and we still have January 6th to deal with.
yeah.
And he goes to these rallies, and he's giving these one-on-one interviews and group interviews. And I mean, think about it. How is it that people around him are taping him?
Right. That was where I was going to go with
I've
that.
never. It is it is surreal. Everybody tapes
But
themselves
that
who
was
hangs
public,
out with
Austin.
him because they assume that I may one day I may need a lawyer for dealing with this man. Well, if you need a lawyer for dealing with him, perhaps you should stay away from him.
Yeah.
But
Hey, Stacy.
you said that was for a book, right, Barrington?
Sorry.
It was for a book. You said.
Yeah, he was being interviewed for Mark Meadows' book. The stuff about he has the papers and look what Millie said and blah blah blah. But he reminds me of an STD. He's just a gift that keeps on giving.
What?
So Jack
I've
Smith,
never had one, so I don't
I've
know
never
what you're talking about.
I've never had
Me
one
neither.
either. But it's what I heard. So
Wow. But also you mentioned too seriously though, you said it's for Mark Meadows' book, right?
yeah.
And there's speculation that
Mhm.
that's Mr. Deep Throat himself. That Mark Meadows is just dropping dime left and right.
But
Oh,
think
yeah,
about
yeah.
it, gentlemen. Even at that level, you are used to dealing with interviews. You're interviewed all the time, on the record, off the record, books, magazines, articles. Common
Yeah.
sense would dictate that when you are being taped, you act like you have not just not just a sense, but they got to go together. Common sense, or it doesn't work. And he just, he never fails. I mean, he sees the camera there, or he sees the recording device there, and he just talks, and
Yeah,
he's
what would
contradicting,
possess him to say this stuff on tape, even for a book? You are
bragging.
bragging.
He's a
Bragging. That's all he's
narcissist.
doing, bragging.
Stacy, he's a narcissist, Stacy.
Yeah.
He's a narcissist.
I-
So
I'm looking at Claudette Perry's comments. He says, nevertheless, Satan doesn't die easily. I'm sure there's more to come. I always say,
Absolutely,
evil
she's right.
lives a long time. That's always been my say. Evil lives
Really?
a long time. Yes. And so I think what she's saying, and Barrington, the president of your fan club, by the way, Pamela McDaniel Spain is on. She says good morning. I know she's on
tell her good morning.
you.
Good morning, Pamela.
But this idea of him just talk, and see the judge, even the judges, each of the judges in these cases are trying to protect Trump by saying, "Listen, don't talk at all." They're telling him, and that's something the attorneys usually say.
No, Stacy. They're telling him not to talk because he's been threatening witnesses, witness tampering, and doing all that stuff. And they don't care if he talks.
Well, you know what? He's been told to refrain from talking about the case, but he just apparently it seems like he can't help himself. And which again, when we have Attorney Tarver on, we always ask him about representing a client like him. It must be the worst nightmare for any attorney.
Not if you're getting $3 million to do it.
Front.
They always say he doesn't pay.
No. That's why they're getting the money up front, because he's always stiffing lawyers. Right. That's why he can't get good lawyers.
Yeah.
But we have to remember that this is a man who's been for the 77 years that he's been alive, has lived a completely entitled life. He does what he wants. He says what he wants. He's never been held accountable. There are no consequences. So he, for some interesting reason, still thinks that no matter what he does, and I mean, one of the things that I've learned, and I'm sure you guys know better than me, is that these people that are supposed to be important, prominent celebrities, whatever, they have a bunch of sycophants around them all the time, telling them everything they want to hear. And because they were even saying that when some troubling news came out from Jack Smith, and the folks around him were contemplating whether or not to tell him the bad news. So when you have someone like that, he thinks he can do what he wants,
Well,
and
if
he's
you tell
gotten away with it to this point. So
exactly, and
he's
if
not
you
gonna
do tell them the
stop
bad
now.
news, sorry, Barrett, I
Well,
apologize.
you know,
No, go on, Austin.
go ahead,
No,
Austin.
I'm just saying that if you do tell him the bad news, he's going to make the bad news worse news because he's
Yeah.
going to talk. So
Yeah.
what do? Tell him or not tell him? I mean, regardless, his reaction
Yeah.
is going to be the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of Trump, and so I'm going to go into this this segment by using Trump because it's so interesting because every current Joe Biden and former U.S. president, including Barack Obama, right? Everyone except for Donald Trump comes from a family who held slaves. Could you believe Donald Trump is the only president whose family never had slaves?
That's kind of interesting.
Isn't that interesting? So,
But
all the U.S. lawmakers
Yeah.
today in Congress, I think the report says more than 100. The research says more than 100 of them. Elizabeth Warren, you go on Mitch McConnell, of course. Families held slaves. And here's the other part. Before you get started on it, Barrington, Tim Scott and Cory Booker,
Mhm.
of course, African Americans, were descendants of those who were enslaved.
Enslaved, yeah. But the only reason why Trump's not on the list, he comes from an immigrant family. His mother was from Scotland, and his father was from Germany, and his great grandfather came here in the 1800s, like mid to late 1800s. That's the only reason why. I guarantee you that if they were here for any length of time, they'd be on that list as well.
Exactly.
Because everything about, I mean, remember, we first heard about the Trumps when the Justice Department sued them for discriminating against potential black
1974, right?
in 72, 74, something like that. So they have the same demon seed that these other people's families have in terms of thinking it's okay to enslave human beings.
And can you gentlemen imagine Henry Louis Gates sitting down with Donald Trump and showing lineage going back, to slavery? He would slit his throat on live TV.
I don't know, Austin. I think he'd be unbothered by that. He would just talk about, I got some of my Negroes in my family.
My Negro.
Wow.
Yeah,
my Negroes.
That's all.
Listen, so here's a stat that Reuters put together. Among the 536 members of the last sitting Congress, for example, Reuters determined at least 100 descend from slaveholders. Of that group, more than a quarter of the Senate, 28 members, can trace their families to at least one slaveholder. It says among those lawmakers from the 117th Congress are Democrats and Republicans alike. They include some of the most influential politicians like Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, Elizabeth Warren, Tammy Duckworth. In addition, as we said, every living and former U.S. president and 2 of the 9 sitting U.S. justices, Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch, also have direct ancestors who enslaved people. Finally, in 2022, 11 of the 50 U.S. states had governors who are descendants of slaveholders. They include 8 chief executives of the 11 states that formed the Confederate States of America, which succeeded, and waged war to preserve slavery. And 2 are currently seeking the Republican nomination for president: Asa Hutchinson, the former governor of Arkansas, and Doug Burgum, of North Dakota. So it's that history. This is the month in which they celebrate Juneteenth, but you see where we're going with that.
Yeah. And the thing that's interesting is when you put that against their efforts to erase history, This is the type of
Yes,
stuff that they don't want people to know,
exactly.
you know,
There you
because
go.
they want to give us the garbage narrative of American exceptionalism and the melting pot and blah blah blah.
Yeah, they want to
And
erase our history and their history.
yeah, yeah. Well, only the parts
Well,
of history that make
parts of their history.
that deal with the genocide against Native Americans and the enslavement of African Americans.
Yep.
So yeah.
Well, again, we are live here in Nashville, Tennessee, the site of the National Newspaper Publicists Association's annual convention. And what a convention they have planned, fireworks, stuff like that, right? And so
Fireworks.
here we are. We got a award. Well, tonight is the chairman's reception. I don't want to get ahead of myself. It's the chairman's reception at the African American Museum. Should be a really, really nice trip over there with all of our Black-owned newspapers, the publishers of the Black-owned newspapers, and some of their staff. Obviously, tomorrow is the NNPA Funds Merit Awards, and then Friday night is the Legacy Awards. We are anticipating the Attorney General of Minnesota to come by, Keith Ellison. We are also anticipating the two Justins, Pearson and Justin Jones, who both have just won their primaries for re-election in their districts here in Tennessee. So it should be really interesting. And then, of course, we got a live performance from a Grammy winner, Keith Washington, right? It's Keith Washington. So
let me ask you a question, Stacey. Let me ask you a question. Did you go to University of Tennessee?
Did I do what?
Did you go to the University of Tennessee?
No.
I see the colors on your shirt.
I thought it was more Caribbean colors. I thought I was.
I thought it was more Caribbean too. Yeah.
No, that's the orange and white is University of Tennessee. So
listen,
you're doing some subliminal stuff here.
Fan club, and so I just decided to join the Barrington fan.
Well, here's the deal. I will get you some really beautiful Caribbean shirts.
All right, that's a deal. Greer says she should give me some shirts this week too. She don't like my shirts.
See, you got fan clubs, you got fanboys and fangirls all over the place.
No, Greer's not a fan at all.
She's not.
No.
Oh, Greer's a fan. Greer's a fan. She just won't. Yeah, Greer won't admit it, but she's a fan. She's your biggest fan.
Oh gosh. So
how many
guys,
folks are in? How many folks are in Nashville? How many folks are you expecting? Yeah.
From what I understand, everybody's registered. So, we have 230 some odd members of the NNPA, Black publishers and media company owners. So everyone's registered. So
okay, cool.
We should see 230 plus other publishers. So
you guys should do what Congress does.
What is that?
A designated survivor.
A designated survivor.
all of you shouldn't be in one place at one time.
Why not? This, camaraderie.
Oh yeah, okay.
We gotta sing Kumbaya. Listen, so how about this? So Democratic lawmakers are in Congress are gathered, and they are planning to investigate Justice Clarence, a formal investigation of Justice Clarence Thomas. We know, we reported on the alleged ethics violations that he's been centered in the last few months and going beyond that. But now they say enough is enough. His alleged relationship with Harlan Crow. We have to say that, folks, alleged, because we don't want to, presume anybody guilty.
Although we know he's guilty.
This is
yeah, right.
So this is what's going on. And Justice Alito. Now there's a report on his
reports.
Yeah,
reports.
Reports with this.
On his alleged activities.
Barrington says that so sarcastically. Awesome.
Exactly.
Well, listen. I don't forget. Maybe a week or two after they overthrew Roe v. Wade, he was invited to Rome to some speech, and he was so arrogant and cocky and basically like, we can do what we want. We don't care how people feel. So I have no problems with him stewing in a pot of his own making.
Well, here's the thing too, though. Justice Alito. So he's friends with this huge donor who contributed all this money.
His name is Paul Singer.
Paul Singer.
Yeah.
Then he had a Singer, according to ProPublica, had a case before before the Supreme Court. Alito did not recuse himself and ruled in favor of Singer.
Yeah.
How much of a conflict is that?
Well, I'm not sure what you're reading because I heard that he's had about 10 cases in front of him, not one, and he hasn't recused himself anytime.
And he's not the only one.
But
How many?
you know, the fact that the Supreme Court's approval rating is like 30% tells you everything that you need to know about the damage that they've done. John Roberts' wife, $10 million in commissions to put lawyers in these high-priced lawyers in different places. Virginia Thomas, with the hundreds of thousands of dollars that she made that her husband never put in those disclosure forms. They're a bunch of crooks. They're a bunch of alleged crooks and alleged criminals.
In addition to Ginny Thomas playing a significant role in the January 6th
insurrection. Yeah.
True enough.
So
she and the thing with Ginny Thomas is she hasn't tried to hide that.
No.
So that's a case where you don't have to say alleged, right?
Mm-hmm.
Barrington don't want to say alleged on anything.
I don't want to say alleged on anything.
David says Leonard Leo is the power behind the Justice throne.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard Leo.
Is he still at the Heritage Foundation?
I believe so.
Do you know that they got $1.6 billion with a B to continue the shenanigans of the dark money in legal circles, to hire to bring in judges and to finance all of these laws to completely deregulate anything to any agency in the United States and to put all these alleged criminals in the federal courts and in other places in other parts of the judiciary.
You know, the other day, and I wrote a story about this with the Supreme Court. They made a ruling the other day that even if a person is innocent, once his appeals are exhausted, he's done. He has to remain in prison. This is a Supreme Court rule. Of course, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson really wrote a scathing dissent to that. But of course, Clarence Thomas wrote the majority opinion, and said that basically what he said, when you boil it down to plain simple English, he just simply said, "Tough luck." Yeah,
I mean these guys are monsters, man. Because every time
live like that, though,
man.
You know,
but no, go on.
There's a case that I'm sorry, Barrington. They brought a case. I think the gentleman has been in prison for something like 28 years. They finally proved that he was totally innocent, but his appeals have been exhausted. Right? It was him himself who stayed in the prison law library. And found out how he could, and finally the Innocence Project took his case, and he was proven innocent. But the Supreme Court just the other day said, "Stay in prison."
Well, I hope one of the lower courts will get him out.
Because usually he's done.
No, I mean,
no. If he's working with the Innocence Project, they very likely will get him out.
Even after a Supreme Court ruling like that.
Right.
I mean, I hope so.
I think part of that ruling, Barrington, is that they are not allowed to go back to the lower courts, though. You have to read the ruling. I wrote the story. It's on the NMPA's internal news wire. I'm sure I'll publish it. But that was part of that. They can't go back to seek relief from lower courts once it reaches all these steps.
Okay.
And so that's why the Supreme Court ruling the other day was so devastating. Especially for this individual who brought the case.
And how low of a human being, to your point, Stacey, can you be to rule like that and to go to sleep like that and get up the next morning and look in the mirror? And as Barrington said, they just don't care. Some of them
don't care.
Just don't care.
There was
Yeah,
a
we're
case
talking.
last
And
year.
this was
There was a case last year with a mentally challenged man who had gone through severe abuse, and he had killed somebody, and it came to the Supreme Court, and they were like, kill him. They were like, we don't care about the circumstances, we don't care about the factors, put him to death. They are monsters, they're animals, they're creatures. I despise them.
it's hard to tell.
You would have
Yeah,
never known, Barrington.
because I'm usually so studied and dispassionate, right?
But you
Mhm.
know what? We've talked about this in the past on this program. Many have talked about this. The conservative, the movement, the Republicans, for instance, for years and decades plotted to take the Supreme Court, and they're getting this is why they did it. And it's so interesting. A month ago, I was in Atlanta and I was talking with Andrew Young, Ambassador Andrew Young, and it rings in my ears, especially at looking at what's going on now with the Supreme Court. And he said they back during the civil rights movement, the idea was to make sure that they got the right justices on the court. And he said that all the major rulings in the 60s were justices that they had helped to get on the court. So that's why they got all those favorable rulings. That changed. He specifically pointed to when Ronald Reagan was president, and Reagan, like we saw with Donald Trump, was able to appoint, I believe Reagan was able to, in his 8 years, was able to appoint 3 justices.
Like three, yeah.
Sandra Day O'Connor, I forget the other two.
Yeah, and then of course Bush Senior appointed
Clarence Thomas. Yeah. But you know, even with all of the money and the political muscle that has led to this far right extremist Supreme Court, it was not done under quote unquote normal rules. They had to lie and cheat and steal. They stole two Supreme Court seats. They stole one from Obama.
Yes.
Right? And they stole one just before Joe Biden became president. So, I'm not going to say what I really want to say.
Remember what
Greer said.
In the chat. Yeah. She got us both scared.
Yeah. So
wait a minute, I can't see the chat.
It's no. She just gave us some friendly advice. That's all.
I think that was directed at you only, Barrington.
No. It was directed at Austin too, because one day Austin might roll up in.
It was never directed at me.
Austin might roll up in here and be like, right? And everybody be like, oh my God, Austin, what's wrong with Austin? Right?
Oh God. Well, again, the Supreme Court, just to wrap this segment of the Supreme Court this week. This is the last week of the session. And so we still have 2 major decisions that we're waiting for, the student loan forgiveness plan and, of course, affirmative action.
You also have LGBTQ.
And you have the LGBTQ.
Yeah.
But they've made some curious rulings the last couple of days. I've been writing about the North Carolina voting situation, Louisiana voting situation, and they surprisingly ruled in favor of the people and also ruled in favor of Democrats in the gerrymandering situation and a voting rights situation. So are they setting you up for the kill?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it's what my grandmother used to call the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
The boom is going to come down. They kind of lull you into a sort of, relaxed mode.
Yeah.
And then they drop the boom and then disappear for 3 months or 4 months.
Yeah. But I'm hoping, gentlemen, that colleges and universities and other businesses don't do what happened with Roe v. Wade. They knew it was coming, and it came, and everybody's shocked. These folks have had more than enough time, and I was doing some reading the other day, and they were saying that certain institutions have already begun to put in place different options to counter if the Supreme Court decides to kill off affirmative action. It's so interesting because the Supreme Court has been working really hard to try to convince us that racism no longer is an issue in this country, and they everything that they're doing, and I heard a stat the other day, and I just shook my head because they said like 55% of white people believe that because of the gains that black people have made in this country, that reverse racism is in play. And if they were a young or old person, I'd have to slap them in the back of their head because it is so absurd for them to live in a country that favors everything that white people do, and then the minute that black people start making advances, they start talking foolishness about reverse racism.
But and Stacey, you hinted at this at the beginning of this particular segment, how Republicans are so good and so patient with the long game. They just chip away and chip away and chip away over a period of 50 years. The chipping away of affirmative action, as I recall, started in the mid 1970s. Wasn't there a Supreme Court decision, the Bakke decision or something? And they've just been chipping away over the years. And then finally, when you get because of voting patterns, when you get a president like a Trump or a Reagan, and who can significantly move the ball forward, or in the instance of Roe v. Wade, get it across the finish line.
Yeah. Power 96 makes a point. I want you guys to dissect that a little bit too. He says if black athletes stop attending PWIs, those colleges would lose millions in revenue. Is that something that might be in consideration as the court makes this decision?
In consideration in what way?
In consideration that maybe we shouldn't touch affirmative action it's about Harvard and North Carolina, but it's going to affect everybody. But maybe we shouldn't touch that.
Nah,
because we're touching the money. Maybe there's a lobby going on, right? Would those schools be lobbying? Wouldn't people be lobbying the court?
Yeah. But when you have the worst problem, the worst issue, the worst problem that we have is people who are completely wedded to something that is so wholly damaging to everybody else. We're dealing with a group of people that are telling now, for all the time that we've been in this country, it was kind of, you never had anybody saying that you had to be a Christian, that you had to adhere to certain values. Now they're basically, what we're dealing with is a bunch of fascists and bigots that are telling you that unless you are a quote unquote Christian, or unless you believe what they believe politically, then they're going to find some way to punish you, sanction you, put you out in a field somewhere. So, and when you think about the fact that Alito and Thomas are the two most extreme examples of this, and Gorsuch most times, Coney Barrett most times, I don't think that they care what schools think, what people think. This is a part of their ideological agenda to force this country into Gilead. This country is Gilead, bruh. And they're using authoritarianism, fascism, and Christian nationalism to bend people to their will.
And didn't
for discrimination?
Yeah, but it's always a case of with us that I find so frustrating, forgetting, where we've come from. Now, Clarence Thomas had benefited from affirmative action.
Of course he did. Clarence Thomas came from
Yale Law
Georgia.
School. Everything. He had benefited from affirmative action.
High school, law school, EEOC, Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. But like we talked about before.
I think you said. Go ahead.
I said, like we said before, he climbed the ladder to where he was and kicked it away because he said he don't want no other Negroes or anybody else to benefit. right? Austin, you are correct. We suffer from serious amnesia. And then it might be a minority view, but I think that too many of us are afraid of offending white people. So we don't say what we're supposed to say. Because as far as I'm concerned, every time that they come at you in these ways that are trying to limit and damage us, we need to kick them in the ass. But we don't. And people keep on thinking that, because I talk to people all the time and they keep on saying, well, they're nice people. And I'm like, look at what they're doing. And I'm not talking about all of them.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the power structure, the political
we don't
elites.
want to pay everybody with the same brush, right?
No, never. But we, and I mean, Dr. John Henrik Clark says black people have no friends. And we don't. Because the Democrats don't fight as hard as they should for us. They don't fight as hard as they do for LGBTQ people or for the Asians, because there's an Asian hate bill that passed Congress in tutus last year. Was it last year or earlier this year?
But people say, Barrington, that bill has no real teeth, though.
Yeah, but here's the deal. It's a start. It took 200 years for them to pass an anti-lynching bill,
Lynching bill, that's right. Joe Biden.
Yeah.
I have a question, Mr. Moderator.
Yeah,
is ASS is that profanity or a curse word? Because I want to make certain I stay in good graces.
It's an anatomical term.
It's also an animal, right?
And an animal, yeah. Thank you, Stacy.
Here I am defending Barrington. How can I defend Barrington?
Exactly.
Well, you're a colleague and a fan too. I'm your fan. You're my fan. Thank you.
There you go. But you ever notice something too, Austin? Austin, you ever notice something? You remember Arsenio Hall, right? And he used to always say on this show,
I know.
I was driving in from Cleveland today. You remember that, right? Barrington, every single show says, I was talking the other day with. He always says that. Or the other day I was reading this.
And what about it?
Well read, well spoken. I mean, you're very we are part of your fan club. We are part of your fan club.
But I'm a journalist, and I'm married to Mimi, as Mimi reminds me.
Reminds you.
No, because listen, we're in the business of having to read, because as much as I hate it, I read these. I can't watch Fox News, but I do read these conservative publications, because we have to know what the enemy's doing and saying.
Absolutely.
That's the only reason.
Getting back to Clarence Thomas, can you imagine if someone did a really deep dive with all of the, if did a deep dive with, did a deep dive on all of on all of the cases with the Supreme Court, justices, on how many cases that have come before the court where there's been a conflict because of them directly or their spouses. Can you imagine what that number has to be with Clarence Thomas, Uncle Tom? And the reason I'm saying that is because for the first 10 or 15 years, he didn't say anything on the court. He was just sitting there silently, like on internal mute. So who knows what he was doing?
Yeah. So wait a minute. You mentioned Mimi, and I see David said we saw that kiss. Now my monitor was blocked momentarily. Mimi came in and kissed you. She kissed him.
Yes.
On air.
Yeah.
God, you know what? We don't do that. Okay. This is we don't do that.
Sue me.
What is wrong with Mimi? She can't control herself.
No, not around me.
Not around you.
We can't control ourselves around each other. Sorry.
So guys, I was looking at social media on this and listening to other people too, though, outside of social media, but certainly social media seems to be split in half on this Carisha Hood situation. We saw this idiot, this guy, rear back and punched the lights out of her. And she texted her son, 14-year-old son. He came in, he shot the guy. They said the guy started running. He shot him in the back, killed him, and she allegedly ordered him to shoot another person because that other person, which I read was a woman, was sort of egging the other guy on who was beating Carisha Hood. They dropped all charges.
Good.
Some people say that is the right thing to have done because this guy was totally out of control. But then
it looked like he was mentally ill.
Yeah, I mean,
he was defending his mother.
Yeah, but
is it that simple that he was defending his mother?
It's never that simple, Stacy. It's never that simple. But on its face, he was defending his mother. The thing that saddens me is that we always resort to violence in this country. And it doesn't matter who you are. It's like, and that is I believe that's in the nation's DNA. Violence has always been a part of this country. And rather than mediating or trying to find nonviolent ways to resolve issues, it's a gun, it's a knife, it's some type of weapon.
Yeah. Mostly guns nowadays. Mostly
guns. He was wrong, 1,000% wrong for hitting that woman. I'm not surprised that her son came and did that.
Right.
But it's a really sad situation. And she's fortunate. She's fortunate because there's a woman I can't think of her name, right around the time that we were absorbing what had happened, the murder, Trayvon Martin's murder. There was a woman in Jacksonville whose husband used to beat her routinely, and she fired a warning shot into the ceiling, and she got 20 years.
20 years, I recall that.
She got 20 years. And there are all these other cases where people are abused by their spouses or companions, and they retaliate, and they're in prison. So this woman is really lucky.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead, Austin.
No, I mean, it's kind of related, but not related. Did I hear correctly on the news last night that the white lady who shot the black woman, through the door, had been released and all charges dropped?
No, she's been charged with manslaughter. They're claiming that they don't have enough evidence to charge her with murder.
Okay.
Despite a litany of things that she did and said.
Yeah, a lot of premeditated stuff there.
Yeah, most of it's premeditated.
Yeah. And
okay.
previous behavior too with those kids. And that, it is sad. David Youngblood said, "What saddens me is we help perpetuate the notion Black lives do not matter." And Power 96 says conflict resolution skills are lacking among our people. Fussing in the takeout food line leads to death. But again, the shooting of the second person, I was surprised that there was no charges in that.
Yeah.
Were you guys at all surprised at that?
Yeah, that's what surprises me, because she has full right to tell her son to protect, to defend her, I guess, with the dude, but just for someone egging him on, and it makes me feel like we may be hearing from her or about her again.
Agreed.
Well, and then 14 years old. Why does he have a gun?
I was gonna, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and even under those circumstances, if he has access to the gun in the car, why did she do the shooting?
Yeah.
I don't know that I
was
would
it her gun
ask,
or was it his gun?
was it her gun or his gun? And that I don't know.
I would never put my child in that situation.
This is where I'm going.
Yeah.
The trauma that he as a 14-year-old has to deal with. It's man, I don't know.
Yeah. It goes back again. I guess Power 96 says it. This lack of conflict resolution skills, and that is not just. We're not talking about Carissa Hood and her son. We're talking about everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, so many, I should say.
Yeah.
You see it with road rage. You see it with, like you said, standing in line at a takeout. We see videos every day at fast food restaurants and other places where they're fighting. Look, the BET Awards, and we're going to Power 96 this week, talk about the BET Awards. In fact, they're still giving out awards. Every day I'm getting something in my inbox. Such and such just got this award, the BET Awards, whatever. But they only get a televised portion. But we're going to talk about that later this week. At some point this week, we are going to talk about that because Power 96 had asked about that earlier. But even there, we saw two, I guess they're celebrities, get into a celebrity couple. Somebody got hit in the head with their phone. They hurled the phone at the guy or whatever.
Really?
I missed that. Really, what happened? I mean, why?
I didn't hear about that.
Listen, I don't know these people. they celebrities.
But on a serious note, gents, we really, I think that we as Black people haven't done a good job at all in terms of instituting in our communities the types of mechanisms that would help us stop killing each other. Because that is, every time that the cops kill a Black person, them. See, I'm working so hard not to say what I want to say. Them people on the other side are quick to say, well, all of you ain't saying nothing about Black people killing Black people. And I'm not looking at it.
Every time they say that, Barrington, I go back to this. We don't say nothing about Irish people killing Irish people.
Thank you, exactly.
Yeah.
White on white crime.
You commit crimes where you live.
Yeah. And you perform crimes on people that look like you. The FBI data shows that white people kill white people in the same numbers at the same rate as Black people.
The worst thing, I'm convinced, the worst thing that's happened in this country, and I was already convinced, but then we did if people didn't get a chance to see it the other day, we had a nice special with the Negro Leagues and that documentary, The League, that's coming out. And one of the things that was highlighted there, integration turned out to be an awful thing.
Oh,
right?
I've been saying that.
And now I'm convinced more than ever that the worst thing that happened in this country, one of the worst things, was integration.
Yeah.
Because you had community. You had all and they keep talking about the Black dollar and the Black community. Well, that's all. That was it.
Yeah.
It was every day. It was every minute.
Yeah. I'm convinced that integrity, and it's interesting because the civil rights leaders were so trusting that the white power elite would do the right thing, and all we've dealt with since then is them moving the goalposts, and they're the ones that have benefited. They're the ones that have. I mean, because Black people have become fully integrated into this capitalist system. We don't have that many banks. We don't have that many institutions. We don't have the requisite number of businesses. And so, because Stacey, Austin, I keep on asking people, why are you all talking about reparations if when they give you the money, you're going to take it to Bank of America or Wells Fargo or somewhere else?
I mean, I laugh because it sounds funny, but it's not funny. It's very true.
So until we have these institutions in place, all we're going to be doing is giving Massabat the money that he gave us.
Yeah, again, Power 96. He mentioned something about I mentioned the BET Awards. He says two no-name rappers throwing phones at each other and Busta Rhymes speech. That's where we were going, and we will go later this week. That part of the BET Awards is what we want to talk about. Finally, BET. Just a little precursor. This is what Bria and I were talking about, mainly her. They give folks their flowers. And we always talk about giving folks their flowers before or after they're gone. Well, BET has been doing a good job. That's the one thing they've been doing a good job of, right? Is giving Black folks their flowers. And Amira Garrison, Amira Garrison is watching. Amira Garrison is an incredible actress. One of the things, Amira, I'm about to lose the name of the film that's on Prime now that she's in. It's on the tip of my tongue, but she's watching. She says, I think it's the issue of the Black man and woman being pinned against one another. There is this agenda that the more Black women advance, they are either trying to eliminate the Black man or emasculate them. This unfortunate event was a prime example: ego and misdirected anger.
Exactly. Yeah. And listen, I remember taking a bus to the Informer one morning from downtown to Southeast DC. And there were a bunch of young men, like 14, 15, 16, who were probably lying, but talking about the robberies that they had done, the mischief and the crimes that they had been involved with. And one of them said, let me tell you all, don't ever go after a white person. Because if you do anything to a white person, you're going to get 50 years in prison.
That's right.
So they already know, they've already been inculcated not to mess with white people. And so what do? They turn their anger and their rage on their own. What, Austin?
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, in addition to BET, giving folks their flowers while they're alive to smell. I think the NAACP Image Awards also does a great job of recognizing folks who are not likely to be recognized in the manner that they should with the Oscars.
But we shouldn't be sitting down waiting for somebody else to honor us. Why? We're on our own. We need to be doing our own thing. But I want to ask a question that is not related to anything that we're dealing with here. No. It's legit. Did Tyler Perry really buy BET?
So we let me say it this way. So Dr. Chavis got a note that from what's her name? What his good friend Rolanda Watts, who said that the purchase was done, and there was an article that said the purchase was done. Now the very latest is that while they have agreed in principle, no signatures have been. Tyler's signature has not gone on the dotted line. There are some things still to be worked out. So
somebody called you out, Stacey.
Well, listen, I always get called out. I can't be concerned too concerned about that.
So,
I've been wondering how with the purchase, assuming it does go through as it appears, how Tyler will change BET.
It's already the Tyler Perry network. I mean, that's the only programming they seem to have is all Tyler Perry stuff, right?
Really? Yeah. I don't watch it, so I don't know.
But you're right, Austin. As owner, because it's supposed to. This deal includes VH1, and so as owner, it's going to be interesting to see what he does, what else he implements there, what kind of things he creates. He's done an awesome job with Tyler Perry Studios down in Atlanta. He certainly has held true to that. He hires Black. Right? He keeps it flowing that way. So we'll see what happens at BET. It'll be great once this deal is finalized. If it actually does get finalized, it'll be great to know that it is Black owned again.
because
Now, what
it's
he
been
does with that-
it's been the stepchild for Sumner Redmond or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
They well, it's like everything else. They don't know what to do with black people. They don't know what to do with black institutions. They want it, but they don't know what to do with it.
Well, I hope it goes back to. I mean, I would love to see, BET, have a program like this.
Yeah.
Black news. Political segment. Not just the the nonsense of
But that was
the dancing and the rap music. I'm less concerned about that, and that's fine. But I think one of my criticisms of BET under previous ownership was, bluntly, in my opinion, it didn't really do anything to it further stigmatized black people.
yeah.
That's how I
Well,
felt.
they had a news outfit, a news unit,
Hmm.
and they phased it out.
Yeah, exactly,
Which made no sense to me.
So I get the dance videos, but to me it just became dance videos and silly,
Silly sitcoms.
black soap operas. Yeah,
Silly
so I'd like,
sitcoms.
it just, yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Listen, do people still really watch music videos? Is that a thing? Because I've lost touch.
I don't know.
I don't know.
When I find a station that has them, I'll watch it.
Okay.
And it's mainly because I like music, and I like music that I'm not necessarily listening to all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I find those music video stations, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
But
I like music too.
Yeah.
And until my 24-year-old daughter, I thought I had the most wide-ranging taste in music. Shit, this girl listens to just everything. She's stuff
more than you.
Oh gosh, her she was listening to something. She was driving us to the airport the other day, and she was listening to some thing. What is that?
It's intriguing because my son Julian was here, and he had a playlist, and I was like, "Yo, so many of the things, like I love trance, and we love reggae, we love timba, and that type of stuff, and he loves that stuff as well. He has a much wider musical range than I do, which is good. I like that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with BET. We'll see what happens with all of this stuff. We always appreciate y'all too. Barrington, we're gonna ask the FCC were you okay today or not.
The FCC?
Yeah. Let's see if we get a fine.
You mean FCC Greer?
Exactly. We will see. But anyway, thanks again, guys. Thank y'all for watching. Stay tuned as we we'll be all week live from Nashville. There's a lot of things coming up. We may pop on at any moment. But we'll give you a little bit of a heads up. So thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.